Hello everyone, it's Linda from LindaZ in Arlington Heights, Illinois. Waiting for the new year. I hope you guys are too. I have a project to keep you nice and warm when 2023 comes in January, and having some really wonderful blankets to wrap around, and that'll keep you really cozy and very, very comfortable. And I'm doing something a little bit different. We can take these fleece blankets and tie them and cut them. I don't like to do that. I like to have a really quality looking blanket. If I'm going to spend my time even cutting out a blanket or a fleece piece, I want to make sure that it looks like one of the really good quality that you can go to one of the big stores and buy. And I've actually, the one that I'm working on, you can tell we're in Chicago, right? And getting ready for next spring with the Chicago Cubs. We have the White Sox here too, and we have that fabric also. I just happen to have a Cubs fan that I was making this for. And what I've done is I take the fleece, and the hardest part, quite frankly, not hard, the longest part is cutting out the fabric. I just cut it from salvage to salvage, whatever width that is. Usually it's between 58 to 60 inches. And then I take the length that I want, which usually is about 1.75 yards. That seems to be a real nice, warm, comfortable throw. A lot of people like these to take to a ball game, or take to if they're going out and sitting in front of a fire and it's cold out and maybe making s'mores. They're wonderful for that. Or just sitting in front of your television on the fireplace going, and you want to wrap yourself up in something warm. So what I do is I take the same fabric and the top and the bottom. So my fabric would be 1.75 yards for the top, and I'll take the same amount, the 1.75 yards for the bottom. So if I get my, have a piece cut for 3.5 yards, that will make a blanket that, and again, these are quality. These are not something you're shopping at the discount stores for. These fabrics and these garments and these blankets, and when I've seen them in the stores made like this, they are well over $200. So to get a blanket like this, it might cost you anywhere from, 30 to 60, $70, and you're getting one that will last for a long time. That being said, I want to teach you a couple quick techniques. Those of you that have sergers, the easiest way to do this once your blanket is cut is just to take it to the serger, obviously, and serge around the edges. Leave open, so you're not going to serge, you're going to leave a seam allowance about 6 inches. You can see where my pink little tabs are here, my little lovely little clips. I like the pink ones because they're a little bit smaller. The green is what I use to flatten it down a little bit, and then from here to here, and that's about 5 to 6 inches, because you can easily pull this whole blanket through this opening. And once I have seamed this blanket, and I do put my wrong sides together, I'm going to start almost backwards because I'm going to show you the finished one first. Let's go to what's underneath here, because I think this will give you an idea. I just love this blanket. We were able to find this fabric, and we are almost out of it, so I shouldn't even really show you, but it's for technique that I'm showing. Look at the stamp on here. This is for a woodworker for holiday time, and this is what I made for him. And he has wood products. It's actually Tracy's husband, so I'm sure he's not watching this, and he won't know that he's getting this. He has a birthday coming up too. And if you look on the branches, it does say real wood, and this is the stamp that the woodworkers use. I couldn't believe that we could find this, and it's all authenticized and stamped all over, and then it kind of looks like fall. Isn't it pretty? I mean, it's just an amazing piece. And what I have done is I put the two right sides together. I took a serger and serged all the way around, and then I left an opening about this big. And that's when I turned it to the right side. And then I took these nice big green clips. I press it first, and you have to be careful when you press fleece. You're not going to take your iron and go and press it right down, because if you do, what will happen? I know a few of you know what will happen, because we've probably all done it. you're going to get a crease mark, I mean a nice iron mark, and you don't want that. So steaming this is the best way to happen. If you have that Laura Star iron, as I know many of you do, just steam it and you'll have it. And you can also take a clapper. That's another way to get your nice seam. And you see how my seams are nice and even. The seam is right here on the allowance. And when I did this, before I did the straight stitching here, and this is a straight stitch, and it's 2 inches from the edge. And before I did that, I did just what I'm doing here. I put my little clips around just to make sure before I do all the pressing. Once I've got that all really finalized, then I take this seam opening, now this one's already closed up, and I hand whip that 6 inches once it's been pulled to the right side. I can show you, I'm going to show you another one that hasn't been done yet after I finish with the stitching. If you don't have a serger, obviously you can definitely do these blankets on a regular sewing machine. Put the right sides together, go around your seam allowance with an overcast stitch. Almost every machine has one. And if your machine doesn't have an overcast stitch, then what you want to do is go and look what you do. Have you a zigzag straight stitch, zigzag? You could use a straight stitch thread too, but you do want something that's got some stretch in it in the thread. I recommend for the seaming, if you're using a straight stitch, you could even put a slight zigzag in it, or use one of your stretch stitches on your machine, so it'll give a little pull if people are, wrapping it around and tugging on it. And the best thread to use on that would be metrazine thread, the 100-weight metrazine thread. It's going to give a real nice pull. It's not going to break. It's not going to pop any of the stitches. And you can throw these in the machine and the washing machine and the dryer afterwards. And I do have people ask me, do you pre-wash your fabric when you are doing a fleece blanket like this? I do. And the reason that I do that, I just put it in real quick. If you have a quick wash, that's a great way to do it. And the reason I do that, if there's any kind of a solvent in it or any kind of, something that was on the bolt, it just gets rid of it. It's going to be a nice gift, and I just don't want anything on there. It just makes it a really, really nice gift, and it's fresh and clean when you're working on it also. So again, real simple. You're going to cut you're really not cutting much, because you're going to find a piece that's 3.5 yards, because I think really the 1.75 yards for each side is the best. So you're cutting 2 pieces out of that yard and out of the 3.5 yards. Each piece will be 1.75 yards, and you're going to place those right sides together. You're going to sew around the edge, whether you have a serger or a regular machine. You're going to leave about a 6 to 8 inch opening. You're going to pull that through, because remember, you put your right sides together. You're going to pull that through to the wrong side, to the right side now from the wrong side. Then I take my steam iron and I press this to make sure that my seams, you see how nice these seams are at the edge? They're not firmly pressed, they're not flat. You don't want that look. This is real plush and just very soft looking. And then I make sure I put a couple of clips along. You don't have to do it every, 2 inches, but just a couple of clips all the way along the edge, so that this doesn't shift when you are doing your straight stitch. And that's what I'm doing here on this Cubs one. You can see I would have, if I had found my my threader, I'm in the studio and I brought my blanket here and didn't hand stitch it before I got here, because once I have brought this thread to this blanket to the right side and I'm all ready to stitch on it, before I do the sewing machine stitching, I take a hand whip and I whip it all the way along the 8 inches that I had as an opening, 6 to 8 inches. And that way it's closed before I do the straight stitching. Unfortunately, on this one, I couldn't find my my threader and my needle, and I did bring a needle that I'm going to show you. That's kind of cool. We have so many things around here that it's, well, when I find it, I'll show you. It's a new Kaffe embroidery package that is just great. So again, you're not going to have these clips here like this when you're doing yours. This is already going to be hand whipped. This is the right side, you have two pieces that are together. And now, and the only reason I do these two pieces together is because, first of all, it's warmer. And secondly, it just gives you a little bit softer feel. It's just a wonderful cuddle blanket. I also have many times people have asked me, when you're doing those blankets like you do you put fleece, do you put stabilizer in there? Absolutely not. This is not a quilt. You don't need the stabilizer unless for some reason, I never say never because you never know what somebody comes up with, and sometimes you want to think outside the box, so that's okay too. But for the technique that I'm using here, I do not use the stabilizer. All right, or the batting. So now you can see where I'm at. I have got my 10D or my 1D foot on, and if you could look at the screen here, you will see that this little, this is the Kaffe 770. We happen to have it up in the studio. I'm going to show you another little thing that I think will help you, because most of you might have a little measuring. I know there's one on here too. I could actually screw this in with these little screws, but again, I didn't have it here, and this is the mother of invention. You see this line along here? Because I need a line to guide my fabric by. And I can do this all the way up to here. I'm using the, well, they call it embroidery perfection tape. And it's really a good tape because it's not going to gum up the base of your machine. It tears off very easily. And when you want to remove it, you won't have any problem. So now I know that if I run my seam, my edge of my fabric right along this pink edge, that it's going to be perfect. So I'll go ahead and release my foot. I have taken the stitch length. The default on here is shorter, and I brought this up to 3.5. This happens to be a 9mm stitch machine, the width, but on the length, the width of this, I've made it to be 3.50. The length of the stitch. We're not using a zigzag at all on this. It's just a straight stitch. And you may wonder why, if you see the thread back here, why I'm using this blue embroidery thread. It's actually, I think it's a Floriani, or maybe it's a, I don't know if it's which one. It might be an Isacord too. Either one. They're poly thread, and they do have a lot of stretch in them. And quite frankly, it was just the best color. So I thought, well, it's a great color, so I'm going to work with it. And then all I'm going to do is go ahead, and I did pop this on. Let me put my foot up again so I can show you this. Do you see how this feed dog back here is put on? This is what we call the dual feed. It's a built-in walking foot that is just great for something like this. I am going to put this thread out to the side when I start. I'm going to lower my foot again, although when I start to sew, this machine has an automatic, and it will go ahead and just stitch. And that's all there is to it. We're just going to keep going around. And just keep on, that's why I say it's nice to have these little clips just to make sure that you're not stretching your fabric at all, because it can stretch. There's no question about it. And once I get to the corner, I'm going to go to about 2 inches. And what you can do, you can make a cross mark on your machine so you know exactly where that 2 inches is on your foot, which is about here. And then you can raise your foot, check it here, and it's not, so you didn't get quite to that point. I'm going to do a couple more stitches. I've got this on a real high speed. See right here? I'm going to decrease that, so if I step on that real fast, and I'm on a pretty high stool here, so it could be, I could easily just take this stitch and go running with it. Let's try 2 more. Okay, let's do 1 more. That's why now, if this is going to be the right measurement, I would take another piece of tape. I know this sounds very elementary, but it does work. And I could leave it this way. And then I know when I get my seam down to this point, it's time to turn. Let's see if we're right. Oh, perfect. Okay, so now I know that I've got the right seam. And I'm going to take a couple of these off, and as I go down the next side, I'm just going to put them on here. All right, so let's keep going and see. If you could see what I'm sewing on here underneath, this is not the way I sew at home. I've got 3 little stacks of wood pieces here, and they're not the way you would want to sew at home. So let me go ahead and put this at a higher speed. And then I'll just continue on so you can see. And again, I'm going to take this and show you. Now, if I were to have sewn all the way around and I come back to this point, I'll just finish it off. Normally, this, like I said, would already have been hand sewn, so I wouldn't have these on here. And I'll just finish off with a back tack and I'm done. What I do want to show you is that, you see this little seam here? See how easy that's, and I mean, I'm really tugging on this, and there is no way that that is going to break. And that's that 40 weight embroidery thread. So, and I have the same thread on the top as the bottom. I put this, like I said, on a 3.5 length. You could even make it 3.75. You kind of determine that yourself. Your machine will show you what's the best way to work. But I think you've got the point. This is a quick, simple, easy, but expensive value fleece blanket. And that's what I wanted to show you. Now, 3 quick little blankets. You saw this one. Those of you that are doing holiday still, because did you get everything done that you wanted to? I don't think. I start holiday usually right after the holiday for the next year because I know I'll never get everything done. This is Cuddle, and it's treated almost the same way. I mean, there's a few other techniques you can do, but when I'm doing a Cuddle that I want to treat as a fleece blanket, I do it exactly the same way. There are other, we do have Cuddle classes. We've had the Shannon people here, and they've got wonderful techniques, but this is a real simple, quick, easy, and really great way. And this, I love this little gnome guy. I think he's just so cute. And so this was the top, and this is going to be the bottom. And again, it doesn't shed. You can see I'm putting it all over these blankets because the fleece, when I cut it, has already been vacuumed up. The mess that you get with fleece, I mean with Cuddle, is when you are cutting it. You're going to, anytime you cut a Cuddle fabric or a minky fabric, all that little fleece part is going to shed and go all over until I just take a vacuum, a little small vacuum, and vacuum it all up right away, and then you don't have it anymore. So when you're working with it, it really works nice. So again, I thought I'd show you that because I think that's going to be fun, but the creme de la creme, and this is what I'm going to finish up with. We found an Andy Warhol pattern, and you know, normally you can't sell licensed designs, but this is right on the back. It was sold by a distributor to us. We only have, I believe, 6 kits left. We are selling the kits. They are on special. Look at these little cats. And this is the wrong side. I'm going to try and turn this so you can see the color, the spectacular color. Can you see the difference when we go to the right side? Because again, you're going to put the right sides together. Aren't they just absolutely wonderful? They're just absolutely, look at the green eyes, the blue eyes. It was a patented, I don't know, it's a licensing, so it's really, really a great, I think it'd be a great, great blanket. The kit itself is, there's 3.5 yards of fabric. It should sell for between $60 and $70, and we put 6 of these kits on sale for the first 6 people that get them for $44.99. So you got a bargain, and somebody's going to get just a wonderful Happy New Year. Okay. Again, I want to thank so many of you that I've gotten to know personally over this last year for coming and, you know, talking to me, sending me a little email, sending me a little note. stopping into the store and talking to us. This is why we do this, because of you, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Have a wonderful, wonderful, Happy New Year.